Have you ever heard the story 3 feet from gold? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't, and that's okay. I'm going to tell it to you quickly. Well, you might have heard of the story, but what you might not know is what happened after. So stick around in this video, I'll explain all that. So, 3 feet from gold is a story about disappointment and heartbreak, to be honest. It is a story about R.U. Dhabi and his uncle. It is also a story about success. So back in the day, I guess the best way, the way to get rich was through gold mining. And when people would go out in the wild and search for fields and through rivers and places where there could be potential of gold. This still happens today, but back then it was like almost the only way to get rich, really rich. So Darby's uncle had heard of a place where gold had been discovered. And why it's called the gold rush, people would actually leave their towns and move to those areas where gold has been discovered. And they would mine with their hands and tools and shovels. That's why you've had that, like during the gold times, the people who got rich were the people who would sell shovels because everyone was buying a shovel to go dig for the gold. I guess that's where the term gold digger comes from. But we're not talking about this in this video. So anyway, Darby's uncle goes to this place where rumors and everyone was saying there was gold and starts looking for gold. Buys a shovel, buys these tools and begins digging with his own hands and stuff. And actually, interestingly, he discovers potential of gold. Where he was digging, he finds that there is potential of gold. So he covers this place up and heads back home. The story says in Maryland, and heads back home for one purpose, to raise money needed so that he can buy heavy machinery, equipment needed to dig deeper and find this gold, get the gold, get rich. So he goes back home and borrows money from friends and family. And something you should note about this story is that he was able to borrow money from friends and family because of his reputation. Do we have a reputation where people can actually trust us with their money? It's an interesting question. By the way, if you're curious what about I'm doing, I'm taking out this light. I'm going to set it up and see what happens. How does it change the color of the room? So anyway, Darby's uncle borrows money from friends and family, taps Darby, him and Darby head back to Colorado where this gold mine was, with equipment this time, and they start digging. So they set up, they start digging. Interestingly, their first truck of mined material shows evidence that they could potentially pay back their friends and relatives much sooner. So everyone is excited. This is a success story. We are winning. We are winning. But after the first truck, as they continue to dig, things begin to look unpleasant. They begin to turn the other way. They begin to turn around. The initial success they had discovered, suddenly the fault line, there's a mismatch in the fault line, and they cannot find any more gold. They try to follow the fault line, but they can't find any more gold on that digging line that we are following. Disappointed as they were, they kept going, kept digging further. Well, it turned out that no matter how much they dug, they never found any more gold. So they're heartbroken, they are in debt, they are devastated. That initial success turns into deep disappointment. And I want to pause there for a moment. Have you ever been disappointed deeply, where initial success put you on a high, and all of a sudden, now failure truly knocks you down to your face? I had someone say recently that don't let disappointment disappoint you. Now in this video, We're going to talk briefly about that. But here's what happened next. What you might not know if you've heard about this story before. So they decide, you know what? Let's count our losses. Let's sell all the equipment we have and head back home to Maryland. The only person who was buying around them was a junkyard man. Junkyard man. The junkyard man buys the material from them, this heavy equipment, but instead of turning it into scrap, he goes and finds an engineer, someone who understands, I guess, geology, who understands these things of digging and gold, but petitions him, I guess, if you want to say, to take a look at this gold ore where they were mining and see what happened. Where the engineer looks and said, actually, they were following where they thought the gold was, but actually the gold line was suddenly slightly, it was kind of like side by. So he said, you don't have to dig further to find the gold. So the junkyard man with the engineer, they begin digging. The junkyard man has this, of course, the equipment, and only 3 feet in, they discover, they get the fault line again. They find the gold. They find the real gold now. Incredible, excited, ecstatic they were. Now Darby and his uncle, hearing of this news, you can only imagine how devastating. This is no longer disappointment. This is devastating. How devastated they were. How they licked their wounds. They're in debt. They sold something that could have turned their lives around, and someone picked up just 3 feet away and turned their lives around. There is something I want to tell you about what happened next. In this story, although disappointing as it was, he really took the lesson to heart and said, from now on, I won't take no for an answer. He ended up selling life insurance, and he became one of the best at the time. One of the best that he sold life insurance worth millions of money. He became rich, he paid off his debts, and he was able to get his life back. But it is a painful story of how he turned disappointment into a lesson, that he will not give up anymore because his success may be 3 feet away. But for us, you and I, maybe that's not what you really are thinking. What does disappointment mean to you? Like I said earlier, I had someone say, don't let disappointment disappoint you. Don't let disappointment disappoint you, in the case, discourage you, because you might be 3 feet away from your success story. But also don't let disappointment disappoint you, like take you off your mission. We are called. We have a calling over our lives. You have a purpose over your life. You have a vision. You have dreams. We cannot let initial disappointment disappoint us from the calling for which you know that we have on us. We have to keep going. You see, disappointment does not mean failure. You might be successful and still feel disappointed, because disappointment is about unrealized expectations. They were disappointed because they expected to be there more gold, and even more so when they gave up thinking there was no gold, there was more gold just 3 feet away. Don't let disappointment disappoint you.